Good afternoon. I'm Yoong Yoong from the ASEAN Secretariat. I'm especially invited just to share with you on the relevance of ASEAN. I have about 50 slides, so I try to sum it up quickly. For those who have not been to the Secretariat, this is where we are. We are in the southern part of Jakarta, South Jakarta, supported by a MRT station called ASEAN, as well as the busway. And as you can see, these two new buildings are the current premise of ASEAN Secretariat, where we are. And this is the heritage building. As you all know, ASEAN started with 5 countries back in 1967. Going by alphabetical order: Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. It was only in 1984 that we first enlarged to include Brunei after they got independence. And by 1995, Vietnam joined, before we saw the likes of Laos, Myanmar in 1997, and the final member, Cambodia, in 1999. We are now anticipating the entry of Timor-Leste. We are not so sure when would that be, but then again, they are indeed part of Southeast Asia, so under the ASEAN Charter, we do have an obligation to include them as a potential 11th member. These are the 5 founding members of ASEAN. From the left, Foreign Secretary Narciso Ramos, followed by Adam Malik of Indonesia. The gentleman in the middle is Tanak Koman. From Thailand, Tun Abdul Razak, the father of Tan Sri Najib. And the last but not least, S. Rajaratnam of Singapore. These are the 5 founding fathers of ASEAN. They visited Bangkok on 8th of August 1967 to sign the Bangkok Declaration. And so every 8th of August, we celebrate what we call the ASEAN Day. Just to give a background on what the ASEAN emblem is. On the whole, this is what we call a signage that represents a stable, peaceful, united, and dynamic ASEAN. As you know, ASEAN colors are the blue, red, white, and yellow, which represent the main colors of the state crest of all the ASEAN member states. Individually, they meant blue for peace and stability, white for purity, red for bravery and dynamism, and yellow for prosperity. We have 10 member states. Likewise, we have also 10 dialogue partners. This is for easy coordinating purposes. From 12 o'clock on the top, Australia, Canada, China, EU, India, Japan, Republic of Korea, New Zealand, Russia, and USA. So each of the ASEAN member states undertake what we call the country coordinator role for each of these dialogue partners. This is what we call the usual cake, where the ASEAN Foreign Ministry is concerned. We have the 10 member states on the top, and then we have the +3, the first regional institute mechanism that ASEAN derived, with China, Korea, and Japan. And then we have the East Asian Summit that include also the Australian, Indian, New Zealanders, Russian, and the Americans. And finally, what we call the ARF, we include the other neighboring countries: Bangladesh, Canada, DPRK, EU, Mongolia, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, Sri Lanka, and Timor-Leste. Dialogue partner-wise, the first ASEAN dialogue partner that we engaged is Australia. We formalized it back in 1974. And you can see all the way down to 1996, where we concluded one with China and Russia Federation. So each of these dialogue partners provide the much value-added support in terms of capacity building and technical assistance to ASEAN and ASEAN Secretariat. If you look at ASEAN on the whole, it is truly unique. You have the mainland countries: Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. You have the peninsular countries like Malaysia, Singapore. And then you have the archipelagic countries, nations, the Philippines, Indonesia, And in that sense, Brunei, which is located in Kalimantan, or Borneo Island we call it. So ASEAN is truly unique. And each of these member states have their own respective different stages of economic development, political system, and religious belief. Indonesia, where almost everybody is a Muslim. In Philippines, almost 80% are believer of God, church. And in Thailand, almost everyone is a Buddhist. So in that sense, you realize ASEAN is truly diverse. Political system-wise, we have a monarchy system in Brunei. We have a very centralized economy like in Vietnam. Truly democratic, liberal system, Philippines, Indonesia. So very unique in a sense, unlike the EU, which is a bit more homogeneous. And ASEAN is in that sense, is what we call diversity, is one of the characteristics. Even though separately we are different, together we are strong. As one collective outfit, we are talking about a market of 650 million people in 2018. GDP, a total GDP of US dollar 3 trillion based on 2018 number. And in FDI, foreign direct investment, we have outperformed China for the last 3 to 4 years. So if ASEAN is a single country, where do you think it would be in terms of economy? How big are we in terms of ranking? Well, we are the number 5 in the world after the US, China, Japan, and Germany at 3 trillion. As you can see from the chart, we are about 1 trillion away from Germany and about 2 trillion away from Japan. Perhaps in our lifetime we can see us catching up with Germany and Japan. But I do not think we can catch up with US and China. This diagram also illustrates the point that individually we are at best number 16, like Indonesia, at 1 trillion. Thailand is the next ASEAN member states at 0.5, and Singapore, for all whatever you think of it as an advanced economy, is only at number 34. So separately, we are not even near the top 10, but collectively, yes, we are number 5 in the world. I think there are a lot of information with regard to the ASEAN community, and all I need is just to remind you to remember these 5 years in the journey. 1967 is, as I mentioned, the year we came together when we signed the Bangkok Declaration. 1997, 30 years later, was the first thought or first intention of converting ASEAN from an association, as the name implies, to what we call a more concerted of community nation under the ASEAN Vision 2020. Because that was by the end of the Cold War, ASEAN need to think of a new role for itself. And in 2003, back in Bali, under the chairmanship of President Megawati, she further break down what we call the ASEAN community into the 3 pillars, what we know today: political security, economics, and social cultural. In 2007, under the chairmanship of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, she further advanced or fast-tracked the vision of 2020 to 2015 and wanted to build what we call the ASEAN community by 2015. And indeed, on the last day of 2015, in Malaysia, we launched the ASEAN community. So these are the 5 years in the ASEAN journey which I need you to remember. For political security, again, I just need you to remember 2 things. One, how do we ensure that the country in the region live in peace with one another? And also with the rest of the world, beyond the region, in a just, democratic, and harmonious environment. As the name implies, APSC, political security, the components are issues relating to political development, norms, values, conflict prevention, conflict resolution, peace building, crisis management mechanism. For economics AEC, again, I just need you to remember 2 things. ASEAN will be a single market as well as a production base. to facilitate the free flow of goods, services, investment, capital, and skilled labor. Again, components that are under the AEC are things relating to economics, tariff, non-trade barriers, custom rules and regulations, procedures, cross-border hassles, foreign direct investment, regional production network. For social cultural, it's a bit different. Anything that is not under political security and not under economics falls under social cultural. But again, just remember two things, that under the ASCC, we are looking at promoting a community of caring societies, as well as how do we foster a regional identity. I mentioned about anything that is non-political, non-security, non-economics is under ASCC indeed, because this pillar cover arts, culture, disaster management, humanitarian assistance, education, environment, gender equality, health, labor, poverty eradication, social welfare, and youth, young people like you. But the good thing is ASCC has itself an international standard to peg or to gauge itself with, what we call the Sustainable Development Goal, or the former term Millennium Development Goals. So it has itself an international standard to peg to. And in this pillar, they also work with the CSO, NGOs, as well as protecting the vulnerable groups of the old people, children, migrant workers. I want to touch on youth, education, and sports, because I think this concerns the students of LSPR. Yes, indeed, EYSD, or EYS, we call it, Education, Youth, and Sports, is one major component of the ASCC. And in fact, based on today's numbers, 1/3 of ASEAN's population we can categorize them into youth. That means age between the likes of mid-30, 35 and below. So we are looking at about 213 million of young people in ASEAN, and this number is growing. So every 3 ASEAN citizens, 1 is what we call a young man or young women. Very quickly, the role of ASEAN Secretariat, where I work, we are just the salary person, we are just a worker, we are just a servant. We work with member states, dialogue partners, and everyone else to bring about a greater efficiency in the implementation of ASEAN programs and activities. For those who have not known yet, this is the Secretary General of ASEAN. He's from Brunei. His term is 5 years, and as a SG of ASEAN, he's accorded the minister level of protocol and courtesy. He is supported by 4 DSGs, the 4 deputies. Each of them must be from different nationality from SecGen. Unlike SecGen, who is on a 5-year term, these 4 DSG are on a 3-year term. And as the name implies, they are also accorded a deputy minister level of protocols and courtesy. So we apologize for the gender inequality, but the facts remain that the current DSGs, the pool of DSGs are all males. Vietnam, we have the DSG Tuan looking after the political security. Dr. Aladdin from the Philippines is in charge of the economics. Mr. Kompok from Cambodia, social cultural. And finally, Excellency Michael Tenney from Indonesia is the DSG for community and corporate affairs. So each of them different term, and sometimes we have to go by alphabetical order, because 2 of them, APSC and ASCC, are country appointed. AEC and community and corporate affairs are openly recruited. In ASEAN, we have this book called the ASEAN Charter that actually is the guidebook to serve as a legal and institutional framework to guide us as we achieve the community. It codifies the norms, values, and rules. So if you have not seen it, please go to our website to download a copy. Beside the ASEAN Charter, we also have what we call the RCEP to bind the region together. For those who undertake economics studies, you should know RCEP stands for the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, where 16 countries come together to form what we call a mega FTA covering 50% of the world population and 30% of the global population and trade. So even though it was signed last year, we are hoping India will join us to make it a full implementation this year. Why ASEAN is so engaged in FTA? Because we believe in staying open to free trade, and we believe in making ourselves relevant to, in terms of the world economic system. This chart is just to show you where we are. No matter how you look, left, right, center, ASEAN is in the thick of things. Among us, we are the economic community. Individually, we are the +1 FTA with all our dialogue partners. And we are now trying to merge all together under RCEP. And half of ASEAN is in TPP, waiting to be resurrected. I think I have just presented to you my first part. I intend to actually discuss more in the second part about the key challenges facing ASEAN today. But as a sum up to what I've just presented, ASEAN 1 is indeed an open system, open region, open economic system, and we are prepared to make friends with everybody. Even though we are small, we may not be what we call a major player in the world, but then at the same time, ASEAN is indeed relevant and useful in ensuring the peace within the region and beyond. So I will welcome questions, and you can type it or send it to the LSPR, who will convey the question back to me. Thank you.